ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that the latest chaos unfolding across General Hospital erupts with a revelation no one believed would come so soon. Valentin Cassadine's secret hideout has been exposed. For weeks, Valentin survived by living in the shadows, masking his movements, and trusting only a handful of people with the truth. But the fragile illusion of safety collapses the moment he realizes someone has breached the last layer of protection. The walls he thought were unbreakable are now trembling, and the consequences of this exposure stretch far beyond his own survival. The discovery doesn't come quietly, it spreads like a shockwave through Port Charles and lands hardest on the one person least prepared for the fallout, Charlotte Cassadine. Charlotte feels the shift before she hears the words. A wrong tone in her father's voice. A strange delay in his messages. A subtle tension that curls beneath every promise he makes to reassure her. And then the news breaks open. Valentin's location has been compromised. Every fear Charlotte has been trying to smother bursts to the surface, the nightmares she's been hiding, the guilt she refuses to admit, the sense that she should have done something more to protect the man who has always fought to protect her. For Charlotte, the world becomes unsteady. The terror is instant and overwhelming, clawing up her throat like a scream she cannot release. She imagines the worst before anyone speaks it aloud. The WSB could already be mobilizing. Agents could be tracking him. Enemies she barely understands could be waiting to strike. She knows how dangerous her family's name is, how the Cassadine legacy often brings blood before peace. The thought of Valentin alone, exposed, hunted, transforms her anxiety into something darker, a raw, tightening dread that refuses to let her breathe. Charlotte has already lived through trauma she cannot fully articulate. Losing Valentin would shatter whatever pieces of stability she has left. But in the midst of panic, another feeling rises within her: suspicion. Something inside her whispers that this exposure did not happen by accident. Information this protected, this carefully guarded, doesn't slip through cracks without someone prying them open. Her mind races, replaying every conversation, every interaction, every secret she shared too lightly. She trusted Danny. She trusted their connection, their fragile romance, their shared moment of belonging. But now, with danger closing in on Valentin, she finds herself questioning everything. Did she misplace her faith? Did she open the door to the very threat she feared? The doubt becomes a living thing, breathing alongside her, poisoning every memory with uncertainty. Even more troubling is the growing awareness that strangers have been lurking in the periphery of her life, men like Ross Cullum, whose presence around Rocco never felt accidental. Powerful figures like Jack Brennan, capable of weaponizing even the smallest oversight. Charlotte begins to realize that she has been watched, manipulated, and possibly used without her knowledge. Every move she makes suddenly feels monitored, every word she said potentially overheard. And in that spiraling fear, one truth becomes clear: if Valentin has been found, it is because someone somewhere. I wanted it that way. As panic turns into obsession, Charlotte becomes consumed with the need to regain control. Control over her father's safety. Control over her own vulnerability. Control over the narrative that seems determined to paint her as reckless when she was only trying to help. This becomes the start of a new transformation within her, a sharpening of instincts, a hardening of resolve. A willingness to confront the shadows that have been gathering around her since the moment Valentin went into hiding. She is no longer the girl haunted by her past mistakes. She is becoming someone forged by fear and necessity. Someone ready to challenge whatever force has targeted her family. But with control comes obsession, and Charlotte feels the line between the two growing dangerously thin. She checks her phone constantly, searches for hidden meanings in every message, watches everyone around her with narrowed eyes. Even harmless comments begin to feel like threats. She isolates herself emotionally, unwilling to burden Laura, unwilling to trust Anna, unwilling to let Dante or Sam know how terrified she truly is. Her world narrows to one singular blinding focus: Valentin's survival. And the more she tries to protect what remains, the more she feels like she is losing her grip on everything else. Meanwhile, Valentin senses the tightening noose. The moment he learns his hideout has been breached, he understands that the luxury of caution is gone. He must move fast, abandoning the safe house, severing contact, and preparing for confrontation. But what terrifies him most is Charlotte's reaction. He knows she will blame herself. He knows her anxiety will spiral. And he knows that every step he takes now places her deeper into emotional danger. Valentin can face the WSB. He can fight Brennan. He can disappear if he must. But he cannot endure the thought of Charlotte suffering because of him. That is the burden that weighs heavier than any threat on his life. And so a new psychological storm forms, one that binds father and daughter in fear, love, and desperation. Valentin must disappear before he is killed. Charlotte must hold herself together long enough to endure the, quote, uncertainty. But neither of them knows who exposed him. Neither knows how close the danger truly is. And neither knows that this revelation is only the beginning of a larger unraveling, a chain of events set into motion by secrets, betrayals, and teenage vulnerabilities manipulated by forces far beyond their control. The collapse of Valentin's sanctuary is more than a plot twist. It is the genesis of a new nightmare, one fueled by suspicion, heartbreak, and the creeping realization that someone wants the Cassadines in chaos. Charlotte's panic may harden into fury. Valentin's caution may turn into aggression. And Port Charles may soon witness the rise of a darker, more desperate chapter for both of them. Because once a secret hideout is exposed, the enemy already has the advantage. And once Charlotte begins to fear losing her father, nothing, not even loyalty, love, or innocence, can stop the transformation that follows. Although Danny and Charlotte have shared only a single kiss so far, that moment was enough to reveal the depth of Danny's feelings. It is clear he has fallen for her, hopeful and curious about where their fragile connection might lead. Yet the newly formed romance stands on unstable ground, threatened by misunderstandings neither of them can anticipate. When news breaks that Valentin's hiding place has been exposed, Charlotte's world fractures, and in that panic, she risks making a devastating mistake. If she rushes to assume that Danny revealed Valentin's location, fear may overshadow truth and push her to pull away from him entirely. But in reality, Danny may not be to blame at all. The true source of the leak could easily be Rocco, who has recently found himself surrounded by dangerous influences. Cullum's repeated presence around Rocco is far from coincidence. He has been positioning himself to exploit the boy as an unintentional informant. Even casual conversations or innocent details Rocco shares could be twisted into intelligence, especially if Cullum shadows him without his knowledge. Rocco wouldn't be acting out of malice. He may not even realize he is being watched or manipulated, but his unwitting involvement could still make him the catalyst for Valentin's exposure. And then there is Brennan, whose cold strategic mind has been searching for any weakness he can weaponize. If Brennan identifies Rocco as the link connecting Charlotte to dangerous secrets, he may turn to covert surveillance, bugging devices, or subtle manipulation to extract information. Rocco could become the perfect target, unaware, impressionable, and easy to monitor. Under these circumstances, one slip from Rocco, no matter how innocent, could be enough to lead the WSB straight to Valentin. Yet Charlotte, overwhelmed by anxiety and desperate to protect her father, may misinterpret everything. If she hears whispers, sees patterns, or senses betrayal where there is none, her panic could quickly turn to anger. The heartbreak would be immediate. She might convince herself that Danny cracked under pressure, that he folded, that he turned Valentin in to save himself. And once that idea settles into her mind, her instinct will be to retreat, to shield herself from the pain of losing her father and her first love at the same time. This misunderstanding may become the breaking point of their brief romance, but not because of disloyalty, because of fear. Because Charlotte, already carrying the emotional scars of past manipulation and trauma, has little room left to tolerate uncertainty. And Danny, despite his genuine affection, may be powerless to prove his innocence in the chaos surrounding Valentin's disappearance. For many viewers, the relationship between Danny and Charlotte has always felt complicated because of their distant familial connection. Some fans even wished to see the storyline end before it deepened further. The writers may use this moment, the exposure of Valentin, the swirl of teenage confusion, the tangled web of external threats, to fracture Danny and Charlotte's bond. Their breakup could become one of the season's most surprising emotional shocks. A sharp turn driven by circumstances neither teen fully understands. And yet beneath all the speculation, another truth emerges. Charlotte's difficulty is not simply heartbreak. It is the unraveling of trust, the collapse of stability, and the resurfacing of old ghosts she has been trying to outrun. Losing Danny under false assumptions would force her into a darker emotional arc, one where she questions her own judgment, her relationships, and even her sense of identity. The fallout of Valentin's exposed hideout is not just a plot twist, it is the trigger for Charlotte's next chapter. A chapter where fear distorts truth, where love falters under pressure, and where the fragile world she built begins to crumble around her. The story is shifting, and Charlotte is about to face challenges she never saw coming. Rumors swirling through General Hospital suggest that Valentin Cassadine may not survive the fallout from his exposed hiding place, and the possibility of his death sends the storyline careening into far darker territory than anyone anticipated. Valentin has escaped danger many times before, slipping through traps with the agility of a man accustomed to living on the edge. But this time feels different. This time the force is closing in on him, WSB agents, hidden enemies, and Cassadine adversaries are determined not to let him walk away again. And if Valentin falls, the destruction left behind will not be measured only in grief. It will be measured in the unraveling of Charlotte Cassadine. For Charlotte, the fear of losing her father has always lived beneath the surface, simmering quietly but never quite extinguished. The Cassadine legacy has taught her to expect danger, betrayal, and sudden losses. Yet nothing, not even her past trauma, could have prepared her for the crushing possibility that Valentin might not come home. The moment whispers of his possible death reach her, Charlotte's world fractures. Every memory of Valentin, every lesson, every moment of comfort, every promise that he would always return turns into an ache so sharp she can barely breathe. Her fear mutates into grief, and grief into rage. And that rage has a target. Charlotte's mind, already fragile and burdened by guilt, begins to spiral. She replays every detail of the days leading to Valentin's exposure, the suspicious presence of Rocco, the unexplained movements around Spoon Island, Danny's involvement in secrets he never should have been part of. She remembers how Danny swore he would protect her confidence, how he promised never to betray her father's location. Whether or not Danny actually leaked the information becomes irrelevant to Charlotte's spiraling emotions. Fear distorts memory. Trauma magnifies suspicion. And as panic consumes her, a single terrifying conclusion crystallizes: Danny failed her. Danny failed Valentin. Danny might be the reason her father is dead. The tragedy is that Danny has no idea Charlotte is breaking apart. He sees her withdrawing, sees her anger sharpening, but he doesn't understand the depth of her inner collapse. He thinks she needs time. He thinks she is scared. He doesn't realize she believes someone close to her caused the most devastating loss of her life. And Danny's innocence does not protect him. If anything, it puts him in greater danger because he cannot see the storm forming behind Charlotte's eyes. Charlotte's grief transforms her in ways no one expected. She stops crying. She stops explaining. She begins planning. And that is where the Cassadine bloodline awakens. Charlotte has always been Valentin's daughter, brilliant, perceptive, and emotionally volatile. But she is also Helena's granddaughter, whether she wants to admit it or not. Beneath her fear lies a capacity for vengeance that she barely understands, fueled now by heartbreak, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of injustice. When she imagines Valentin lying lifeless because someone revealed his location, she feels something inside her ignite, a cold burning certainty that someone must pay. Charlotte begins investigating. She watches people differently. She asks questions with hidden motives. She analyzes timelines, conversations, and inconsistencies. And every path she follows circles back, not to Rocco, not to Brennan, but to Danny. The boy who kissed her. The boy who promised loyalty. The boy she believes broke her trust when she needed him most. Danny, completely unaware, continues caring for her, reaching out, trying to support her through the uncertainty. His gentle persistence, something once endearing, now feels to Charlotte like manipulation, a mask hiding guilt. She convinces herself that Danny must be punished, that confronting him is the only way to honor her father's memory. The thought terrifies her, yet she clings to it because it is the only thing keeping her from drowning in grief. And in true Cassadine fashion, the desire for revenge becomes an obsession. If Valentin's death is confirmed, Charlotte's transformation will be irreversible. She will no longer be the girl struggling to understand her place in a chaotic world. She will become a young woman, sculpted by loss and betrayal, determined to strike before she can be hurt again. Danny, caught completely off guard, may find himself standing in the shadow of a Cassadine wrath he never intended to provoke. What makes the storyline truly devastating is its emotional complexity. Charlotte is not evil. She is broken. She is terrified. She is a child reaching for control in a world that just tore away the person she loved most. Her rage is a shield, her suspicion a coping mechanism, her desire for vengeance a desperate attempt to reclaim agency. And yet her actions may set in motion consequences far greater than she ever imagined. Danny, innocent but vulnerable, becomes the unintended target of a grieving Cassadine heir. Charlotte becomes the embodiment of a legacy she once feared. And Port Charles stands on the edge of a new psychological war, one forged not by villains but by grief. If Valentin truly dies, his final act may be the transformation of his daughter into something dangerously unpredictable. And Danny may be the first to feel the storm she brings with her.